right. Yeah, so I'm just going to tell you a little bit about some ad hoc experiences I've had combining ChatGPT with MediaWiki. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. Okay, good. All right. So a few weeks ago, I got excited about some of the stuff that I had just tried to do with ChatGPT, and I told Yaron and Cindy about it, and they thought that this might be of interest to other people at this conference that's coming up. So I have used MediaWikis for quite some time at work to document a medical database and some other projects I'm working on. And like everybody else these days, I have been playing with AI, mostly with ChatGPT, and I just wanted to show some stuff that I've done with MediaWiki. So one of the things was I support a medical database that is quite old. It has a lot of documentation, and over time we have put most of it on MediaWiki. I'm still very impressed with everything that NASA is doing, but I have been feeling inspired, and we have a fairly good single source of truth kind of wiki for this database. And recently we started to use Power BI, and I'm not so familiar with the DAX and M queries that go with it. So I've been asking it a lot of questions about how to query our data. And I kept having to tell it details about how the data is linked and what it means and how it's defined. So eventually I thought, well, wouldn't it be nice if I could just have it read the whole wiki and understand what to do with it? And while ChatGPT, if you have the paid subscription anyways, it can read web pages, it will not crawl a whole website or a wiki. So that's was one of the limitations initially, but then I thought, well, wait a second, it can do data analysis, it can ingest XML files, and wikis can export XML files. So I did a dump backup of the entire wiki and gave it to ChatGPT, uploaded it, and then it tried to analyze this as a data set, which is not what I wanted. But once I told it to treat this as if it was as if you were a MediaWiki instance, had imported the file, i.e. learn it as a language, don't as data to be analyzed. That's not a very clear sentence, but it understood what I wanted from it and pulled it in. And from that point on, I was able to access it from that conversation. But it's of course more useful if I don't have to import this at the beginning of every conversation. That's already better than having to manually tell it the context. But in ChatGPT, you also have projects. So if I import this into a project and then give the project the instructions to treat this XML file as if it was a MediaWiki, it seems to actually understand the data as interlinked pages that interact with each other. So that has been one way for me to be able to access content in a wiki through ChatGPT. It's kind of awkward. One of the problems with it is that it's static. If I want to update it, I have to upload a new file. But so far, it's made things a lot easier on that angle. So that's to get data into ChatGPT from a wiki. But the other thing is to get data into a wiki using ChatGPT. So I have been working on a project recently where usually I take my notes digitally, but this project had us going to different sites where really taking pen on paper notes was the only option. So I ended up with a lot of handwritten notes, and with the prospect of having to summarize them all into I have a personal wiki which I use just for documentation and tracking projects and stuff. So I thought, well, let's see, what would ChatGPT actually do if I just gave it a picture of my notes? And I do not have very nice penmanship. It's kind of messy, and these were very rough notes. But it turns out that ChatGPT actually imports this stuff pretty well. It doesn't actually use AI for that, or in any case, it doesn't use language model AI for it directly. But it writes a Python script and uses just an OCR software that's open source to pull it in. It was actually doing a pretty good job with the notes. It made sense of them enough that I was able to work with them. And from there, I then asked it to put it into, so I don't know, most of you have probably used it by now. ChatGPT has an interactive style where you have kind of like a chat session with it, but it can also do collaborative editing mode where you have a canvas. And so I asked it to put these notes that it had gotten out of this text that it had gotten out of my handwritten notes into a canvas and start annotating it. So I asked it to clean them up, and then I asked it to start adding some, basic markup like bullets and headings, and it actually did a pretty good job at figuring out where these things should go in its own. Like everything with these chat AIs, it's it's always one of these 80% things, but it did a pretty good job with it. And then I said, well, my notes and the wiki my notes wiki is fairly wikified. Like, I mean, I have notes that go into it straight, but I also have it broken down into concepts that are interlinked and have a fair bit of structured data between them to keep track of concepts rather than just the meetings that I've had. So I knew I was going to have to take my notes and interlink them and also integrate them into these other parts. So I thought, well, at least I should be able to get the wiki to get ChatGPT to take pages that it now knows about from my wiki and turn those into links on here. That's what I asked it to do. And at that point, it surprised me a little bit. Not only did it do a very good job of adding links to pages that exist on the wiki, but it also started to add pages to links to pages that don't exist. And that surprised me a little because that's like almost implies that it understands the idea of a red link, or when would you want to turn something into a separate page for Wikification anyways. And I find this is a concept that I've had a very difficult time explaining to my colleagues. So I was quite surprised that it would basically just take this on. So I asked it, does it actually understand Wikification? And as much as these things ever make sense or actually know something, it seemed to understand it from how it was describing it. So I was kind of impressed with that part, which got me then to ask it a further question. Yeah, sorry, I already mentioned that. So large language models do pattern recognition, and I guess that's to a large degree what MediaWiki markup plus broken down pages are, just patterns and patterns, and it works well with them. Right. So then it offered me to be more or less aggressive about linking, and I thought that was another really strange thing to look at, just how deeply these AIs go down into patterns. So obviously I've chatted with this AI a fair bit, and I have the paid subscription for ChatGPT, so it keeps a history of my conversations over time, and it apparently decided, based on what it found on this wiki and how I've interacted with it over time, that it should tune the aggressiveness of its linking style. And I thought, I had never even thought about the aggressiveness of the linking style of the wiki. But yeah, it went in there and stated this to me, and I just went like, okay, tell me more about this. And it gave me a summary of how it thought I would interlink a wiki, and it was pretty much spot on, which was a little bit weird and creepy in a way, but yeah, I guess these tools do keep track of what you give them. So after that, I figured, well, I should also see if I can get it to help me get the data that I've given it into the wiki. Initially, I only had one page. I thought I would just copy paste it, but because it had now come up with these red links, I thought maybe I'll also ask it to make stub pages for each of them, and then encode all of this into an XML file that is consistent with the format that it had for the import that I gave it. And it actually did generate an XML file that was able to import. The content wasn't perfect, and I ended up having to edit a bit of it, but I was still kind of impressed with the fact that it was able to do this. I mean, one of the things that I asked it to do, for example, was if you have any pages for people, can you make sure that you apply the category person to that? And it did a not bad job with this. So where did it break down? Once I realized that I was going to get it to automatically import stuff, or generate an XML file for automatic import, I asked it to also make a new template to keep track of the things that it was adding that were AI edits. And so I asked it to just generate a cargo template similar to a different template that I have for keeping track of questions. And it just, even after repeated prompts and sending it to the cargo documentation directly, it did not manage to work that out. That was one fail, but I ended up generating the template manually, and it was it did just fine to call the template to apply the tracking of the GPT edits to the pages that it was building for import. So later on, also, I realized that I started a new chat, asked it again to do the cargo template, and it was able to do it. So some of it might have just been that this had become a fairly lengthy chat and it was just getting muddled. That does seem to happen at times. So limits and opportunities. I always, as other people have said in their presentations today, how far do you really want to trust an AI to do your edits just for you? And I think maybe the better way to interact with an AI to help you work with the wiki would be to do it through facilitated rather than fully automated editing. So I could see something like the AutoWiki browser tool, which is just a Windows application that you can have on your computer. And what it does is it can build lists of pages you need to edit. It has patterns of how you want to edit them. It sort of has some functionality that's a little bit like find replace text based on regexes or not, or even just pull up all the pages in a category to let you edit them. And one of the things it does that really speeds up things when you work in bulk is it preloads the pages so that you are ready to edit the next page as soon as you're done editing the previous page, so you don't have the time that you have to wait to save a page on the wiki and then an additional time that you have to wait to load the next page. It kind of does those two things behind the scenes while you are while you're working on the page in between. So I could really see this being useful as an extension rather than as a tool that is separate on a wiki, on a Windows platform. And I could really see AI helping to do things like build the regex, or however it does it behind the scenes shouldn't have to matter to the user. Build the way to find the pattern that you want in the pages you want to load, and also with the pattern of what you actually want to change on those pages. So that's a way that I could see this going. And how useful is this? Well, they seem to be doing well with the patterns within the patterns that are MediaWiki markup and that are the contents of a MediaWiki. Not necessarily a time saver in a prototype setting, especially if you get all excited about it and start to dig deeper and follow a few squirrels and send an email to Yaron and Cindy and get into doing a presentation about it. But I could see this having potential just for things like gardening, like when you are trying to get other people to help make sure that the internal is maintained. So I realize that a bunch of people have talked about similar concepts today, often at a much more sophisticated level. I wasn't aware of that before the conference. I think it's exciting to see us all working on it. But I suppose if you don't have a chance to set this up with a full system, then this is one way to approach some of it.
Thank you, Tina. That's I think what you did accomplish is amazing.
The mic's over there.
Oh man.
Well,
oh yeah, she can hear me. Thank you, Tina.